everyone, and welcome to Lipedema Wellness Conversations with Gail. That's me and my friends. And my friend today is Carrie Reedy from Perth, Australia. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, it's great to be with you.
It's always great to be with you. So now it's your turn.
Oh, hi
It's
everyone.
it's great to be with me, and it's great to be with you. And I am just so glad everybody's here. If you get a chance, everybody in our listening audience, whether you're here watching us live or you're watching us on the replay, please make sure that you pop in where you're from, um, give us a little update or a check-in. Um, so anyway, we're going to be here today talking to Carrie Reedy. She's a nutrition. I want to say she's a nutritional. I don't know what it means. I'm gonna let her tell. I'm gonna
People
let
can
her
just
tell
look
you.
and think I'm a nut. So nut being short for nutrition. My university degree is in nutritional medicine, which is sort of shortened to nutmed, which is a little bit. Not quite sure how I feel about it, but it's shorter than putting nutritional medicine practitioner at the bottom. So
Oh yeah, I love it. I think you are a nut, and I always want to say you're a little bit of nutmeg, you're a little bit of nutmeg. Anyway, it's always good to have you, Carrie. Carrie's been working with us for 2 years now,
Mhm.
and she has been. I think we've all learned a lot from each other. I've learned
Mm.
a lot about. Oh my gosh. Um, Nutrition, possibly breaking the diet cycle that I've lived
Mm.
in, getting a better understanding of food. I used to do that thing where food is fuel, and then I'm like, but by golly, cake is fabulous, right? But I've gotten a better relationship with food because of
Mm.
my relationship with you, Carrie. And I've actually learned more about living with lipedema in a healthy, not just I gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight way, but actually loving my body. And a
Yeah.
lot of that has to do with you. So I appreciate
Yeah.
you being here.
Well, I'm glad that it's lightened your journey a little bit, and that's certainly our hope for the whole community, isn't it? It's challenging to live with some sort of any sort of chronic health condition. It's hard, like mentally. It's hard to think, oh, I'm going to have this for the rest of my days. It's hard to navigate, especially with conditions like lipedema, where we keep hearing, oh, you should be doing this and this and this and this and this. It can feel all encompassing, and I'm really a big advocate of, we have to live our lives and enjoy the experience we have despite the condition, rather than feeling like every waking moment has to be some sort of strategy that we're using to manage this condition.
I heard somebody, I'm going to tell you who it was. It was Aunt Sandy.
Mm.
Okay, so Aunt Sandy's been dealing with a health issue, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
she said to me today, I'm so tired of talking and thinking
Yeah.
about this problem. She's just tired. She goes, that's my only topic of conversation. It's my only topic of thought. It's
Yes.
overwhelming. It's controlling my life.
And if
Right?
it's not her talking about it, it's probably someone else asking her how she's doing with it. Yes, it does
Right.
become very all consuming. And therefore, we can kind of get sucked into this rabbit hole of just, it's all we can think about. And as much as, it's helpful to kind of keep it forefront in our mind with decisions we're making, we do have to, we can't sort of just say, I'm ignoring that. It is important that we, have balance and don't let this become all consuming. And I think particularly this time of year, I can see Colleen's from Australia. So hi, Colleen. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving necessarily here in Australia, but I think it's just such a great opportunity, wherever you are in the world, to pause a little bit and to think about all that we are in fact grateful for. It's very easy to see the glass half empty, when we have any sort of health condition, whether it be lipedema or anything else. And yet we really are very blessed. You know,
Right.
we have good lives. You know, even if we're impacted and our mobility is impacted, we still are very fortunate. We live in the best of times, you know, in terms of medical understanding and longevity, all of these sorts of things. And so I like to take time on Thursday, even if we don't have the turkey and all the other things, but you know, to stop and pause and think about all the things that we can be grateful for. And I think that changes our mindset just that little bit once we start thinking about things that we're grateful for. And it can be as simple as the sun's shining today, or you know, the flowers are blossoming, which they are doing in Australia, but I guess where most of you are, everything's sort of falling off the trees, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
actually, things are not anymore. They're off. They're gone.
Oh, there you
It's
go.
all here in Idaho. We had it got really cold. We're down
Mm.
we're down below 0 Celsius. So, we're in the 20s, so we're below freezing.
Okay, well,
And
we're expecting 100 today where I am,
oh God.
which is 40 Celsius. But yeah,
Right.
I, I'm
So
not looking forward to the day in that sense. But yeah.
right. So here in Idaho, not only did we get a really good, I mean, it's got cold and then it rained. Oh my gosh, it rained hard. I can't say all of Idaho, just here where I'm at. And then that storm was followed by a pretty brisk wind, you know, and
Yeah.
there's not a leaf on the trees anymore. They're gone. So, but it's bright and clear and
Yeah.
chilly, and I'm scraping the windows with my window scraper now,
Mm.
and so it's winter's. Yeah, and see, Gloria's here from cold and sunny North Ogden, Utah. So she it hits Boise, Idaho, and then it just scoots over 6 hours later and it hits Ogden. So
You could be
we know
warning
that.
Gloria.
Yeah, I can
It's
warn you. I can
coming.
warn you. Um, and so yeah, so like when Etta says in Anchorage, it's warmed up to 22 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's where our low is, and that's her highs. It's
Mm.
beautiful. They're coated in hoarfrost. Now, hold on a minute. I love hoarfrost. It is gorgeous. I remember the first time I said something to somebody who didn't know what hoarfrost was.
That's
They're
me.
like, I know it's her.
It
Hi,
wasn't me, but
hi.
I'm waiting for an explanation from
So,
somebody.
hi, Eileen. Okay, so a hoarfrost, for those people who do not live in hoarfrost areas, it's HOAR, hoarfrost, and a hoar, HOAR, not a WHORE, but a HOAR like a hag. Okay, so you picture trees who have been who have like thin branches, and those branches are covered in a layer of frost that's very spiky and sparkly. And
Mm.
the branches get heavy, and so they kind of hang. But oh, it's like they're covered in crystals, right?
Oh
And so
wow,
so Google it, right?
I'm gonna
So
Google it exactly.
right. So where I'm from, I remember the first time I saw hoarfrost was up here in Idaho, and it was on the chain link fences, and it looked like the chain link fences were those are the diamond
Mhm.
fences, for those who don't know what chain link is. I never know. Anyway, they were covered in hoarfrost, and the spikes, the frost is like spiky, so it goes out like this, so you have all these spikes going every direction, and the sun came up. You have blue sky and this bright sun, and the fences were just like covered
Oh,
in sparkles. And it's gorgeous. Hoarfrost is
mm,
beautiful, and
wow.
like Winetta says, it's shaggy frost. And I have pictures of hoarfrost on my car handles. I had to get my phone out and take pictures of it before I could open my car door, because my car handles were all spiky looking, it's just you have to have the right level of moisture and
Mm.
freeze, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So yay,
Yeah, I
Renetta's.
can imagine.
You've seen it on Christmas cards, I'm sure.
I probably have without even recognizing what it is. We don't get snow at all where I'm from. So to me it just
Yeah.
sounds magical. Like to me the idea of snow is just magical. But I'm not sure if I lived in it I would find it quite so magical because I wouldn't know what to do. I
Oh,
believe driving when it's all icy is a bit challenging too. So
right. Well, you know what? It can be a bit challenging to drive in this stuff, especially when people aren't used to driving in it, and
mm.
they either drive super slow, so you always got to watch out for them, or they think because they got a pickup with big wheels that they can just plow over the top of you. Anyway,
Mm.
it's just yeah, weather's crazy.
It
Where were
is.
we? Where were we? What were we
I think we were
talking
talking about being grateful, but now I just want to Google hoarfrost.
about? Yeah, snow is. Juanetta says snow isn't magical when it comes in 3 foot dumps. So can you imagine a meter of snow going plop?
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
So,
Mm. See,
and
I literally can't. I can't relate.
right. I remember one time we went to Big Sky, Montana, and they'd already had 20 feet of snow in one area, and we were driving down a tunnel. The road had been plowed so much, and we were just driving down a white tunnel. It's what we
Wow.
do. It's what we do when we live in the Great Northwest or
Mm,
wherever we get lots of snow.
mm,
Anyway, yeah, it's also snow is beautiful if you're in your own home and it's warm and cozy. And
mm.
yeah, Gloria's son loves to ski. My husband's a ski patroller, so we have a resort 40 minutes from our front door to the top of the hill. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, okay.
I was
Now,
just going to add a little comment there.
okay.
Gloria said she's never been a fan of winter. I actually think for lipedema, for winter's actually, when we don't get those all of the heat, it actually, in some ways, is easier for us to navigate winter than it is for summer in terms of wearing compression and not getting the swelling. I mean, I guess across the US or even across the world, you can be in various different climates, but certainly. Summer has a lot of challenges in terms of lipedema and lymphedema. So, again, this is about seeing the glass half full. It might be cold, but
Yeah,
there are some positives too.
summer can be challenging, but then for those of us, some of us can't get our boots on if we have to go
Um,
outside, right? Because
yeah.
some of us live in Crocs, and I don't have a pair of winter Crocs, but so every season I prefer to be barefoot if I can be.
Mm,
So, but I like winter. I do love winter. I like my seasons.
mm.
Um, Probably the worst season I ever spend is summer in Virginia. For those of you who live in Virginia, don't get me wrong. I love Virginia. I can't handle the humidity. It makes my clothes stick to me, and I never get dry. But anyway, Hagar says New York snowstorms are nice. They come fast and go faster. You get 5 inches of snow to all melt in 48 hours. Yep.
Mm.
Yep. Winter used to be my favorite season until I had kids.
Yes, I imagine actually trying to get multiple kids all in their winter clothes and out the door is a bit of a feat.
Yeah.
You
And
know, a badge of, gold star and a badge of honor for doing that for sure.
right. And for me, it was like I as a teacher, I'd go, woohoo, because we'd want snow and blow because so we called it snow and blow. If you got snow and blow, they'd close the school because we'd get snow drifts, right? And that's the only time we ever closed school was snow and blow. So, because the drifts are too deep.
Mm.
And I'd get all excited because as a teacher, I didn't have to go to school, right? Woohoo, got a day off, but I had 3 kids at home. What? Go to school. laugh, right? Arr.
Oh
but
dear.
um
Yeah.
but it's always been a little crazy. And Manetta says that she's had lower leg surgery and she's looking forward, dreaming of tall
Mm.
boots. The rest of us are going, yeah, I'll be wearing my Crocs. But I had to cut my irrigating boots off so I could have mud boot. We call them like farm irrigating boots. I bought a pair. I cut the tops of them off so I could wear them for mud boots because I couldn't get them up. So anyway, I got irrigating boots. I'm a farm girl. What can I say?
Hey, it's
Um,
all about finding strategies, isn't it? It's about finding strategies that that,
it
that work
is.
for us and that, make life that little bit easier.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. So, oh no. And Julie Rosa says that it's 80 degrees there, which that's warm, Julie.
Mm.
Um, but the Santa Ana winds there in Southern California, they get the
Mm.
Santa Ana winds. It dries everything out. And this is fire season in California. The fall can be fire season. So
Mm.
so anyway, we've had a really good time tonight talking about the weather, talking about boots, talking about snow, talking about heat, and we're here with a nutritionist.
Well, I guess it's nice to talk about things other than food. I think this is a real food-focused week, but I guess, want to share a couple of tips. And my biggest one is just be kind to yourself. We know that, the Thanksgiving week and leading into this whole holiday season can be challenging around food choices, especially when we're trying to do everything we can to manage our lipedema, and yet we're surrounded by foods that maybe aren't so helpful. So, it's about being kind to yourself. For some of us, we have to be, 100% vigilant. For others, there's that little bit of wiggle room. Yourself whether by kind of just embarking on a let's just go crazy day, what that will do for you. For some of us, you eat cake today and before you know it, you can't stop eating cake. And so that's helpful to know that about yourself, because that can allow you to, set some boundaries for yourself around what you are going to eat, what you aren't going to eat. But yeah, my biggest advice is just to be kind to yourself and enjoy the day for what it is. And the holiday season, about spending time with family and friends and celebrating all of the things that we can celebrate without using it as an opportunity to beat ourselves up. Because
And
many of us with lipedema, we spend a lot of time whacking ourselves with the rules that we've created and feeling like we either pass or fail. It's very easy to have
yeah,
that black or white thinking around food.
right. And I was gonna say, we're in the middle of a CSIG right now, and Carrie,
Mm,
you, Brian Haywood, Sharon Tillery, and Adi McKenzie are doing the CSIG. It's Coaching Special Interest Group, and we're in the middle of it right now. And that's what we're talking about,
mm,
is trying to make sure we don't beat ourselves up, but instead we
mhm,
honor our no and we honor our yes, and we set a plan that says, if I find that I'm in trouble, right? If we
mm,
recognize I'm kind of in trouble in this party, I'm kind of in trouble. Um, I don't want to go to this party because either I'll be very emotional for whatever reason, and I might start, who knows? I For me, who knows? I might start drinking margaritas all night long, right? And then I'm really in trouble. Or I
yeah,
might start eating cake, or I might start eating something that I know is going to affect me, or maybe I'll start feeling. I mean, people say, "Have you tried?" Because people talk to me about weight loss still, and I don't want to
yes.
hear it. There's all these topics I don't want to hear, I don't want to deal with, and I get to that point where
Mm.
I don't even know if I really want to participate
It's
because I
hard, isn't
dread,
it?
yeah, I dread that part, but I want to go be with my people,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
And,
like Juanetta says, a faith. plant in the chip bowl, right?
Yeah. And you've raised a couple of really important points. One is, if we go and we start drinking alcohol before we know it, it's harder to have the resolve around food. So we do want to be mindful of, that's not to say you can't have a drink, but just, maybe have a drink of alcohol, then have some water. Don't drink and not eat, because then that alcohol will go, to your brain much faster. And again, that makes it harder to, stick to what you've decided ahead of time is going to really work for you. And you're right, we do want to go to these parties because we want to see people, but it's challenging. If you don't have anything on your plate, someone's going to say something, why aren't you eating? Or, here, I made this cake, you've got to try it, it's so good. People are trying to be engaging with us, but sometimes these things can be quite triggering. Also, the chip bowls in abundance, but it's not only the chip bowls, it's all of the food that's there, because we have made Thanksgiving and other holidays all about the food rather than about being together and connecting and enjoying each other's company. And the marketers love it.
Oh, of course.
In
Yeah.
terms of all of these foods, always have it abundantly available.
Right.
And it is a challenging time, but I think what you said about honoring our no, honoring our yes, having a plan, going into the holiday season with a plan in our minds of, what, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that. That's a really helpful thing. Make sure you're staying well hydrated. That's really important. If there is a lot of food around, look for maybe some protein sources first. Look for those things that are going to fill you up. If you go to a party hungry, again, that makes it harder to kind of stick to the plan that you've made for yourself. So sometimes that can even mean eating a small meal before you go, and then knowing that you're not starving. I think when you get to a party and you're just ravenously hungry, again, that makes it harder. You're just going to sort of start grazing, and before you know it, you've sort of eaten all night.
Right.
These are just a couple of strategies that can help sort of navigate. And I'm
Right.
sure some of our friends that are on the call have some great strategies too. So you're welcome to
Yeah. Put them in
put them
there.
in there. But Juanetta said lots of food pushes during the holidays. And yeah, I know that even if I make a keto cheesecake, I'm sort of saying to everyone, try it. So I think it's part of just that sociability at this time of year. We're
Right.
like, let's just enjoy all this food together. But it does certainly add a whole nother dimension for those of us that are trying to do everything we can to lower our inflammation, so we don't get to the end of the holiday season in pain and swollen and just feeling really yuck. We want to navigate it and get to the other end of this season feeling good.
Right. And I remember Brian saying, go to show up to the party about a half hour late, if that's a possibility, get there a little late, so everybody's already got their food, and you just grab a little bit if you're going to eat, right? And possibly just make sure that you have somebody on speed dial, and you can say, take a break, go to the restroom, step outside in the hallway or something, and say, I just need somebody to talk to who understands what I'm going through here.
Yeah, great
When he
advice.
when he said that, I thought, I don't know how many times I have been at a party where somebody has started spouting off or pushing at me or something, and I have to step out so I don't say something I don't really want to say. And then I end up, actually, I'll text my friend what I want to say.
Yeah.
Know?
At least you've got it out.
But I get it out, and then I can go back, especially with
Yeah.
family. There are some family members who just are, I remember my mom, actually, I was at a gathering, and my mom told me, she goes, I got this for you. And she had purchased diet pills for me. She gave them to me at the party. She goes,
That's so hard.
it's never too soon to try to lose weight. And I have been dieting since I was 11, and I was probably in my 40s, and my mom's busy trying to make sure it's never too late to try to lose weight, she'd tell me.
Mm.
Things like that. I mean, but yeah, I was totally surrounded by food, and she gives me diet pills. Like, and I'm just like, she doesn't get it. She didn't, and I didn't have a cell phone at the time. And I
Mm.
remember my sister comes up to me and she goes, "What's going on?" I was sitting there crying.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's, as much as that probably came from a place of concern from your mom, and certainly before we knew so much about things like lipedema, it again, it's very hard and very triggering, and especially for many of us that have spent a lifetime dieting, to try and manage our undiagnosed
Right,
lipedema.
right.
Other people saying things, and then, I mean, the flip side of that is that really super skinny cousin that's
Yeah.
sitting there, eating three things on their plate, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to need to go on a diet after Thanksgiving or after Christmas, or I'm going to have to get up in the morning and go for a run because of all the food I've eaten." And you look at their plate, and you're like, "Really, spare me." But
Yeah,
I think being prepared for some of these things and knowing that it's a tricky time, being prepared is like being forewarned about what could happen. We can mentally have a plan for how we're going to tackle it if these sorts of things happen. And like you say, text a friend what you really want to say, or
right,
there's always that
right.
person that's your safe person, and they can be aware that this is a really challenging time, and it probably isn't necessarily challenging for everyone, but I guess we're talking today for those that it really is a challenging time for. How do we navigate that? What sort of
Yeah.
strategies can we put into
And
place? And
and before we go on, I want to bring up Carmen's question. She says she's new here.
mm,
So
mm,
is keto low carb best for lipedema? Because there's a lot of contradictory information.
yeah. And, as much as we know that for many people it is, with lipedema, it is really helpful, it is about experimenting with ourselves and seeing how we personally respond. And then, navigating it from there. There is no one size fits all keto. And if you go online and start Googling keto, there's probably 1,000 different ways that people can do keto. Some are very much about percentages. You've got to do this and that and use an app. I actually have some real concerns about things like apps tracking our food, because it really does keep us stuck in that cycle that many of us have been in before. You may have been counting calories before, but now we're counting other things. It can be helpful on a given day just to kind of, touch base and go, am I really kind of eating in a keto way? But I'm not sure that tracking every single day is actually helpful for our mindset. I think ultimately it's helpful to kind of know what keto foods are, what serves us, and what helps us to feel good, and using ourselves as that barometer. Has my pain crept back? What's going on with my food choices? And using those sorts of metrics, like how we feel, rather than necessarily allowing an app to dictate how we should feel. But that's just my kind of experience with it. And I've worked with ladies with lots of different health conditions. I work with ladies here in my clinic in Perth with eating disorders, and so there's also a very big broad spectrum, and that's just one thing I've seen over and over, that we can kind of just get sucked into this. It feels like we have to control everything. And when we already have a chronic health condition, that's just another huge layer on top of what we're already trying to manage. So for Carmen, there is lots of different ways that you can do keto. It is definitely worth experimenting with, seeing how you feel. If you notice that you're getting less pain, less swelling, then you keep going and see what sort of changes can happen in terms of things like body composition. But the biggest dial movers for me is if we can reduce pain, not get that same degree of heaviness that we can experience, then these are real wins. And then we sort of navigate it from there and work out, how many carbohydrates can I tolerate? And I think there's something to do with the body storing those carbohydrates away in the fat cells, and enlarging out those fat cells. And it's almost, I think about it in terms of they get to the point where they're rubbing against each other. They're just causing all of this grief. And that's probably a very simplified way of looking at it, but it sort of just becomes a bit of a frenzy in there, and we get all this scar tissue and other sorts of things. And by lowering our carbohydrates, our body doesn't need to store those excess carbohydrates away in the cells. we've always been taught that it's the fat, dietary fats is what going to, make us put on weight. But actually it's the carbohydrates are the ones that our body stores in the cells, along with toxins and other sorts of things that it tries to lock away. So by lowering the carbohydrate seems to have the most amount of impact on lipedema. And certainly eating a little bit of higher fat is really helpful for our cells. It creates nice, strong cell membranes, which just make everything function more optimally. And so, definitely worth a trial and testing it out. But maybe now's not quite the right time. It's a busy month, between now and sort of the new year. It's a really busy time. And you kind of want to give it a go when you don't have a lot of other social events going on. And this time of year is a little bit challenging. So I would say that, between now and then is a great time to be paying attention to where the carbohydrates are in your diet and thinking about sort of lowering those without thinking too hard about, I'm going to be keto, because, you don't want to do it for a week and then deviate and then do it for a week and then deviate. You really want to give it a good go to see how you go across, 6-8 weeks of experiencing it. But you've got an ideal time now just to be paying attention to how your body responds to different things and maybe upping your protein. Again, I think I've said this, but I may have said it to somebody yesterday or today, I don't know. But, focus on eating protein when you're out, when you're going to a party or when you're going to, Thanksgiving lunch or whatever it may be. Focus on having enough protein on your plate, because that will help crowd out some of that desire for what comes next after the main course.
What comes next?
A nice way to put it.
Hey, what comes next is whatever I can get on the plate.
Yeah.
So we do have Moni says that carnivore works best for her, or ketovore. And some of us have to go very low carb to be able to do it, while others have a higher tolerance or a higher need for carb. And not all carbs are equal. I mean,
yes,
very
true.
So it depends. You're going to find your food sensitivities, how your body reacts to different foods. So if you do want to get a hold of Carrie, I have her email right here at the bottom of the screen, and she's happy to answer a question and get get you a link to maybe get some coaching from her. And she's always open for a conversation.
Absolutely.
And it's been wonderful to have her as part of our community. I was also going to say something about when we're in a group and people are eating. It's really easy just to let it all go and eat too, and which is fine, right? But one of the things my kid has taught me is just put that in your plan.
Yeah.
Right? Put it in your plan. And so the other day I went out for Indian food, and I told myself I haven't had naan in 6 years. I started my grain-free way of life in October of 2017. So it's been 6 years. And I told myself I'm going to have naan. I'm just going to let myself have it. Then there's no, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yes.
Right? It's like that was part of my plan, and I planned for it. I knew I was going to Indian food 2 days earlier. I just planned for it. I just said, that's what we're going to do. And I'm not going to, and I didn't have the rice, right? I didn't want the rice. I told myself, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to have naan, right? Because I'm like that. And it was really good. And I enjoyed it.
And this is the thing, if you say it's Thanksgiving or we're going out to this is what I'm going to do. We own the decision, and we don't spend time beating ourselves up afterwards because we've made the decision in advance.
Right.
And, each day's a new day. You know,
Right.
if we're looking at living this way and, you know, focusing on, you know, eating more healthy, you know, real whole foods, eating in a, whether it's a ketogenic way or a ketovore or carnivore or whatever works for us, you know, it's we're looking down the barrel of a long time. And so, you know, we do want to be, again, kind and gentle to ourselves and, you know, just own the decisions we make. And each day we get up and
Yep.
do our
Yeah.
best. I had a surprise party here the other night for my daughter-in-law. My whole fridge is full of cake. Like I just keep opening the fridge door and it's like screaming at me. And, you know, I've lived this lifestyle for a long time, but sometimes you just go, you know, it's hard to, I guess in many ways it's hard to just keep fighting against it. And I'm
Right.
not saying here's a whole pass, just eat whatever you like, because, you know, we'll experience the consequences the following day. But it
Right.
is important that we just own the decisions we make based on the circumstances. I bet that naan tasted great and
You
you just
know,
enjoyed the moment, you enjoyed being there with friends, and these things matter. These things really
right.
do matter. They're
Right.
important.
And actually I did enjoy it, and my husband's keto as well, right? And he didn't have any because I
Mm.
didn't let him. No, I'm just kidding. No, he didn't have any. He chose not to, right?
Yeah.
He just chose not to, and I chose to, and but it was really interesting. What was the hardest part was when I ordered the naan. Every head at the table,
Mm.
there were 6 of us, and the other 5 heads all went at me like, "What did Gail
Yeah.
just do?" And I said, "I have given myself permission to eat naan tonight." That's all I said, because they all knew I'm keto and I don't eat bread, but I mean, their eyes were huge, right?
Mm.
And I said, "I've given myself permission to eat bread tonight."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, okay." Because I didn't go, "Oh yeah, I didn't say, "Oh yeah, I'm being naughty." Right? Because I
Yes.
didn't, because that's one of
Yes.
the things we do to ourselves. We disclaim it like that. We'll say, "I'm being a bad girl and I'm going to eat that." Or "I'm being naughty and I'm going to eat that." No, I just gave myself permission.
Mm.
And then it's over and done with, right? And it's just an interesting, it's a different, it's a reframing of
Yes.
this of it all, to where it's no longer a struggle. But man, it takes a lot of practice.
Absolutely. And
It
we
really
certainly have
does.
lots of experience between now and the end, you know, new year to be
Right,
practicing.
right. And
It's a food frenzy time of year. So, you
yeah,
know, we just need to be mindful that it is challenging. And I think acknowledging the challenges that come with it, being, you know, forewarned, you know, prepared for what may come, being able to kind of let some of those maybe comments that people make just wash off us and say, yeah, you know, people are likely to say things, but I'm just going to be true to whatever I've decided to do on my way of navigating through this holiday season,
right,
and enjoying all of the great times. You know, people catch up with family that they haven't seen for a long time. There's a lot of really positive things about this time of year. And if we can focus on the positives and try and just let some of those challenges that this time of year brings just kind of, you know, go into the background a little bit, then we'll get through to new year feeling, you know, positive and optimistic about the, you know, what's
right,
coming next.
right. And I've also done something that our lovely Fiona O'Brien says, to, maybe have a nice soap or a fluffy towel, and
Mm.
put something together for your swim bag. Well, I don't have a swim bag yet, but I was thinking about, getting ready for parties and doing things that are
Mm.
going to be stressful for me a little bit. I thought, and I got myself a really nice body wash. So now when I go into the shower to take my shower before going out or whatever, I'm like, oh, and I'm preparing. It's like it's almost like I'm rewarding myself
Yeah.
beforehand, but it's in a way calming me down, going, okay, I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing this. I've made these decisions, and off I
Mm.
go. Right. So
Yeah. Having an emergency bag of meatballs, that's so hilarious. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's another great strategy, but I love your idea of kind of almost like mentally preparing yourself. Like, you know what? I know that this might be, a triggering or challenging type of experience. I'm in the zone. I've taken good care of myself. I've done a few self-care things, which may just be, having a nice body wash or nice fluffy towel or whatever it may be. And then, like Renetta said, having
an emergency bag
a
of meatballs.
strategy. Yeah.
How about some pocket bacon? I mean, I've carried pocket bacon. I mean, it's not just bacon in my pocket, but or purse bacon. You just stick
Yeah.
it in a little baggie. It doesn't get bad in there. You just pop it in and have a little bacon. I used to carry jerky with me that way, or when I ate almonds, which I don't eat anymore. But it's like you just have a little something that you can say, oh, I'm better off eating this. But still, I find that we used the term earlier today, you and me, Carrie, about white knuckling. Like,
Oh
oh,
my
I can't
goodness.
keep going at
Yes.
this. When you try to go through the holidays with the white knuckles, the holidays are stressful enough because of everything. We're all off schedule. We're all off,
Mm,
everybody's coming and going. There you can feel the franticness on the highway, when you're driving. There's a little bit of that tension. And so if we find joy in a lot of things, then all that tension isn't going to be there. And somebody, I think it might have been you, a few weeks ago, said something about self-care that isn't stressful,
mm,
right? Don't make your self-care stressful.
yes. And with
Do it.
lipedema, it's very easy to feel like, I've got to go to the pool. I've got to do this. I've got to spend an hour on my pump. I've got to go on my vibration plate. I've got to, where am I going to fit in my dry skin brushing? And as much as these should be activities that help support us, we can, again, use them to beat ourselves up. Haven't been in my pump, haven't done this. We just kind of want to
Right.
take some of that pressure off and just kind of try and cruise through the time. And again, it's about knowing that the schedule's going to be all over the place, just doing
Right.
the best we can under the circumstances and giving ourselves that grace to go, I'm just making decisions to kind of get myself through this period without
Mhm.
being totally stressed out, rather than just using it as a time to go, oh, I'm so frustrated with myself, or, it's 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night and we're like, I haven't done my pump. I've got to get in my pump. No, go to sleep.
Right. Right.
You
Or like Winetta does, put a little bit of Vicks and Vapo rub right there,
know,
under your nose. You can't smell anything. You don't smell the bread baking or the pies or whatever.
mm,
And smells are very triggering for me as well,
mm,
Winetta. When I try to fast and somebody in the household, I wake up in the morning and there's a, a, a slow cooker full of meat cooking away already, and I'm like, I was going to fast today. Now granted, I live in a household that's really keto carnivore, ketovorish, right? And I'm thinking I'm going to fast. I'm going
mm.
to, right? Next thing you know, I first thing I do is I get myself a cup of coffee and I just stare at the crock pot.
Oh.
Going, yeah, come on, hurry up, let's go,
Mm.
right? Because it's the smell. But like going into a grocery store, walking down the street, especially when they have the food trucks out, or what, or I know like up in Canada, the beaver tail huts are
Mm.
everywhere right now. It's just a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
I find that best thing for me is a cinnamon mint. I don't know why. The cinnamon takes care of it for me. It's nice and hot. But I do know, like Renetta's like Vapo rub, yeah,
Yeah.
to cut that trigger. And we all have our triggers. But
Mm.
I think that what we can do is we can find a tip or a trick and we can also take and treat ourselves very well.
Yeah. And try to avoid putting ourselves in too many challenging circumstances. Like if you know that a situation is going to be difficult for you, then just, give yourself that grace. And I think, we've talked about some great strategies already, but, it's important to know ourselves enough to know, that one's going to be just too much for me. And, it's okay to say no to going to an event or a party, or, the other strategy I always use, I'm great for making that keto cheesecake. This time of year, it's like everywhere I go, I'm bringing a keto cheesecake.
Yep.
So again, that's another thing, that if you know there's something that you could eat, and you choose to eat, then, that's nice too. I think one of the things that can feel tough this time of year is that it's not fair. I don't know who else feels that way, but you go to that event and other people are happily munching down on all of these things, and it's like, it's just not fair. Why did I end up with this condition? Why do I have to do this? And I guess I would say we don't have to do this, but we're making a choice to do this. I mean, I think reframing it's really helpful, but it can feel really heavy and tough that maybe it isn't fair, and it probably isn't fair.
That's true. No, I don't make my cinnamon mints. I am an Altoid. I eat the cinnamon Altoids, but I'll tell you, all I need is one, and that takes care of it for me. So it gives me that. It gives me that. It gives me a good mouth feel. It's a good hot, and it gets my brain off it. And then I'm busy drinking water to cool my mouth off because they're pretty hot. So we have a question: if does allulose cause any problems with lipedema, such as water retention?
I think this is going to be very individual. There's some people that allulose is their favorite sugar alternative. For others, they find that it causes issues. Sometimes it can be bloating. And I find that anything that bloats us in our gastrointestinal tract is going to be triggering inflammation. If you think about, you've got this, narrow tube that's your digestive tract, and you're getting bloating because you've eaten something, and it could be allulose, it could be xylitol, it could be erythritol, it could be any of these things, it could be any sort of food, but it causes bloating in the digestive tract. That's going to sort of stretch that out. It's going to trigger some sort of inflammatory response. If we think about inflammation as being fire in the body, and it's like this smoldering fire, that's what inflammation tends to do. That's my way of conceptualizing it. What are we going to do? We're going to try and dilute that down. We're going to hold on to more water. So again, this is really personal. Not everyone has that response to allulose. It's really going to be a matter of trial and error. But if you do get bloating from it, then it's also likely to cause, fluid retention. So we just need to be mindful of, how our body responds. And there is no, generic answer like yes or no. We don't actually have allulose available here in Australia. It hasn't even been approved as a sugar alternative, but I've certainly purchased it from Amazon, and I find it a really convenient one to use, but I use it very sparingly, and it's really only an occasional thing. I think that's probably my best advice for all of the sugar alternatives, is save them for a sometimes, for a special occasion. I think for many of us that have had food issues over our lifetime, anytime we still get that sweet sensation, whether it's from real sugar or from a sugar alternative, it can trigger some of those reward pathways in the brain, and we kind of almost get a bit sort of frenzied about it, and it sort of sets us down on a course of where's my next sugar hit. So again, that's something that's worth being sort of mindful of, just the way that we personally respond to things.
Yeah. I know that even sweeteners trigger my cravings.
Yeah.
So it's better for me not to use sweeteners. We do have a question from Hagar, and I don't know that we can answer this, but it's a good something to think about. Is liposuction the only cure? I'm on one of those Ozempic medications, and I'm losing weight so slowly, I'm going bankrupt.
Yeah, they're very expensive medications, and I can't really speak too much about, people's individual experience. There are some ladies with lipedema that are finding it very successful. There's other people that are having just very, very minor results from it. There's been some interesting research that's been presented in the last probably 3 months about long-term use of things like Ozempic and Saxenda and a few other ones that are around actually slowing down gastric function. So, again, it's helpful, but we don't, it's only fairly new. I mean, we've really only been using these medications for the last maybe 3 or 4 years, and we don't have any really long-term data on how they're working. I don't know your personal circumstances, Hagar, but I find a ketogenic diet can be really helpful to getting on the right track. We know that the old calories in, calories out doesn't necessarily work for lipedema, but it's about finding a strategy that does work for us
Yeah,
and
yeah.
feeling comfortable about, the choices that we're making. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Oh, Moni's saying about carnivore, everything else need to work. Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I get, I find the same thing, and I bet you anything that the dairy still, I still have to look at the dairy. I might have to just go completely carnivore. But anyway, thank you, Carrie, for being here with me tonight. And as you know, I always close by asking my guest that if they have a message they'd like to see echoed around the world, what would it be?
Be
And so I
kind
present that to you.
to
Say that again.
My message is always the same. I think we just need to treat ourselves like we would treat our friends. And, we can just spend a lot of time being harsh with ourselves. And at the end of the day, we need to be our own best friends and treat ourselves kindly and accept when we don't get everything 100% right. It's okay. Tomorrow is a new day.
Oh my gosh. If we ever got anything 100% right.
Yeah, right. I'm a nutritionist and you should see my kids' lunchbox some days. Yeah.
Speaking of your kids are just getting up, probably ready to school. Yeah, thank you. And let's be kind to ourselves. And let's reach out to each other if we need to.
Yes.
There are other people here with lipedema. Reach out to them. Reach out to Carrie. I have her emails here. Ask her a question. Set up a coaching session with her. We're here for you, and we know that you're here for us. So, with that, I hope everyone who celebrates Thanksgiving has a wonderful Thanksgiving. And if as your holidays come up, that you're able to face the holiday season with a little bit of peace in your heart. With that, I'm going to tell you good night.